welcome to the reading of the Spirit's book. We are reading chapter 3, question number 50, the peopling of the earth, Adam. Did the human species begin with one single man? The answer is no. The man known as Adam was neither the first nor the only one to populate the earth. Question number 51. Can we know when Adam lived? So here he's saying, did the humanity start with one person? And the answer is no. It was not the first or the last. So here gives the impression of a race, right? And when did Adam lived? What we know for Adam, or that race, that Adamic race. The answer is more or less at the time assigned to him, about 4,000 years before Christ. The man, and here's Kardec talking, the man whom tradition regards by the name Adam was one of those who somewhere survived one of the great cataclysms that have modified the Earth's surface in the different eras. He became the progenitor of one of today's current races. So you can look into, so instead of a person is a race. The laws of nature contradict the opinion that the amount of human progress accomplished well before the time of Christ took only a few centuries, which would have to have been the case if humankind had only come into existence after the date assigned to Adam. Some regard Adam, and with good reason, as a myth or allegory personifying one of the world's earliest ages. So he gives a little bit of a context of how to interpret that. The diversity of human races. So here in question 52 onwards, there's a different title. Where did the physical and moral differences that distinguish the Earth's various races come from? The answer is from climate, lifestyle, and custom. The same would happen if two siblings from the same mother were each raised differently and far apart. They would show no more resemblance to each other. So we're all morally different. And we're also influenced by the climate, lifestyle, and customs of where we belong. So we can get two siblings and put them in different parts of the world, and we have completely different characteristics. Question number 53. Did humankind first appear at various points on the globe? And the answer is yes, but at different periods, which is another cause of human race diversity. Later, humankind spread throughout the different climatic zones, and new types arose in the course of interbreeding between different races. So he's pretty much explaining why we have so many different races. So it is the period, it is the climate, is the adaptation, and also interbreeding. Is a subsequent question to the same number 52. Do these different races imply distinct species? And the answer is certainly not. All are of the same family. Do the different varieties of the same fruit mean that they do not all belong to the same species? We have many types of apples, of oranges, of limes, and they're still the same type, even though they have different forms within them. So there are many, we have different families of humans, but we're all humans, so it's all the same species. Question number 54. Since the various human types have not all come from the same ancestor, might they cease to regard one another as brothers and sisters? It's a very good question. The answer is all are brothers and sisters in God, because they are animated by the same spirit and strive towards the same goal. You always want to take words literally. Here the spirits are calling our interpretation of things. And a lot of our belief into our humanity is that we are all descendants of Abraham, we're all descendants of Adam, we're all this, so therefore we belong to the same group. And here he says, well, if we came about and we're descendant of different people, then doesn't mean we're not brothers and sisters. And he say, you're looking for brotherhood in the matter. And our brotherhood comes from the fact that we all are God's creation. So he goes back into the chapter 1. Question number 55. We're talking about the multitude of planets, plurality of worlds. Are all the globes spinning through space inhabited? The answer is yes. And contrary to what Earth dwellers believe, they themselves are far from being first in intelligence, goodness, and perfection. So back then, it's already saying, I think there's more. Nevertheless, there are individuals who think they know the whole truth of the matter and imagine that this little planet is the only privileged enough to be inhabited by reasoning beings. Pride and vanity, ! They fancy that God has created the universe only for earth dwellers. So today we know a lot more about that, right? So there's an explanation from Kardec here. God has populated all worlds with living beings, all working towards the final objective of providence. To believe that living beings are limited only to their own particular spot in the universe is to doubt the wisdom of God. However, God has never made anything without a purpose and must have intended these worlds to fulfill more important role than simply entertaining our eyes. Moreover, there is nothing on the Earth's position, size, or physical composition that could reasonably support the notion that, to the exclusion of many thousands of similar worlds, it alone is privileged with being inhabited. So I think it's clear enough here that it would be a little bit arrogant of us to think that, of all these planets in the universe, we would be the only ones. I think today we know a lot more than that, and most people, I think, agree with it. But back then it wasn't something common. Question number 56. Is the physical composition of all the different globes the same? The answer is no. They do not resemble one another at all. I think today we know that, right? Question number 57. Since the physical composition of all the various worlds is not the same, do the beings inhabiting them have a different physical organization? The answer is of course. Just as on your fish, they are made for living in the water, and birds made for living in the air. So whoever is living is accommodating the conditions of the planet. Question number 58. Do the worlds farthest from the sun lack light and heat, since the sun would appear only